Hi everybody, it's Dee Slater with Create with Dee and welcome to our Lovely Garden Spring Fling Make class. Today, if you're watching live throughout the day on my Create with Dee Facebook events page, you'll find videos populating throughout the day on it. All of these are going to be recorded videos, and that's because there's a lot of coloring, and I'll fast forward those sections on it because once you've seen one of the coloring in the mega class, you'll know how to do it. So I'll just kind of share with you the colors with the mask and then speed up the video so that you can watch it and enjoy it. For those of you that got the packet, this is what you'll receive either in the mail or on Saturday. I'll see several of you locals at 10 o'clock. We're going to have so much fun locally too. But this is the packet that you would have received. And here was the free little gift that I made you. It's a little seed packet. So with some of your leftover designer paper, you know, this could be a little gift that you could give for a spring thank you on that. So here's everything that you'll see in your packet. I pulled a few of them out so that we could talk about them just a little bit. So in this packet here, this is your boxes. So this is the card box, and we're going to make the card box first. That way, as we make the cards, you can just start to store it in there. So this is going to be for the little treat box, and this is for the card box that we're going to make. So that's what this packet is. You'll find a little packet of basic white paper. There's enough of these larger ones for you to do your stamping of your main floral image and die cut it. So when we do our florals for the Thankful Garden bundle that was featured in this suite of product in today's class, you know, this is what you can use to do all of your big florals on. There's also a little extra strip here for the smaller flower that we'll do, and you know, maybe a little extra. If you don't have the bundle to do this, it's no big deal. You can still enjoy all of the projects. Just substitute it out with a floral or other design that you have in your Stampin' stash, and your projects will still be just as beautiful as the ones that we'll be making today. And let's see, I think, oh, and also if you've got the materials, please do look in your email. There'll be a detailed PDF. The video will go ahead and mention the measurements for those of you that didn't want to get the kit and you wanted to make along. You can just pause the video, jot down the measurements as we go, and go there. But that was one of the big perks for the class here, is you have a nice big PDF to show how to make all of our lovely projects. All right, I think that's everything that I need to do a little housekeeping. Thank you all for joining me here today. Enjoy the class, and I will be, oh, another thing, I always do this. I think about it as I start to sign off. The videos are going to be numbered. So like it'll have welcome number 1, and then you'll start seeing project number 1, project number 2, so that you can see the order in which I'm going in case I refer back to see last video on it. But as we know, Facebook feed kind of jumbles around with different things. So that's everything, and enjoy the day today again. And I hope I see you at a class real soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys all real soon. Bye-bye. Okay, everybody, it's time to get started on our first project. We are going to start off by making this box. Before we do the box, what I thought we would do is we can stamp all of these floral images at the same time while we have our images out and our Memento ink out. So in this packet, you have all of these blank basic white cardstock. You have 5 of these, and you have this one little strip here. So let's go ahead and do the stamping all at once, and then we'll have that done for the rest of the projects. But while we have our ink and our florals out, let's go ahead and do the stamping, and then we'll get right into making the box. All right. So in looking at all of the projects that we're going to be making here today, I'm pulling out the ones that have the floral images that we're going to die cut. So for this, I guess I'm going to call it like the pansy. I don't know what flower that is, sorry. But we're going to need 1, 2, 3, and this flower right here makes 4. So we're going to need 4 of this flower here, and we're going to need 2 of our hydrangea, okay? So let's go ahead and we'll stamp these while we've got everything out. All right, so I need 2 hydrangeas, so we'll get that. And as you can see, it's a big focal image, so I'm taking the ink to this. And if you happen to have a foam mat underneath, it does help the photopolymers stamp. So let me just get that re-inked one more time. For one of the cards, we just need a partial stamp on this. So that's why you have this smaller one here. And we just need this image here. There's a die cut in the bundle that will cut out the smaller flower on this. And so I'm just going to ink up that part of it. Have some scrap paper behind it. I just used printer paper. And there. Although we won't show it in class, if you want to, you can do this several times and you could pop up a 3D element here. It's not going to be for class. I'm not going to show that, but that's where you can use this extra piece. I've got some sunshine coming in on my my stamping surface here today. So hooray, we've got a little sunshine coming. All right, so here's our box. Again, go ahead and score it. And then let's just take our bone folder and let's crease those fold lines. That just means to burnish. We'll get nice crisp edges. So we've got 4 score lines. It'll also help us see how to cut the tabs. This box goes together super fast. All right, so these are our side tabs. So what we want to do is we're going to make these sections here our tab. So we're going to trim up, follow the score line on both of them. So just follow your score line. And then we're going to take a little bit of that bulk out and just angle cut. No one's going to see these tabs, so it doesn't matter how straight it is. We just want to take a little bit of that bulk out. I'll do it for both sides. the designer paper that we're going to need for our box. We're going to decorate all 4 sides. So we're going to need 2 pieces of our lovely garden designer paper. You can choose whichever paper that you want. I chose this design here for the front and back we're going to use. So this one is, we're going to need 2 at 4 3/4 by 5 3/4, so 2 of those. And we're going to need 2 strips of 4 3/4 by 1 3/4. And then for the main focal image that will kind of tie back to our main floral image, this is 3 1/4 by 5. So that you can see how easy it is that this box goes together. This is what it's going to be. We just kind of tuck in the tabs and do that. What I like to do is decorate it first as far as putting on my designer paper. I just feel like it's a little easier for me to do it while it's flat. If you want, you can put the box together first and then put your designer paper on. But like I said, I like to do mine first. All right, so this is gonna be the front of the box. And so you can, of course, I'll keep saying this, you can choose whichever of the pattern from your designer paper pack that you got with class on it. If you don't want to have to make a decision, you can just follow along with what I had chosen. So the pattern of paper that I chose for this, it doesn't really have a orientation to it. So for the background, if you choose this Fresh Freesia multi-pattern one, you don't have to worry so much about, you know, there's not a right side up on your pattern. Okay, we'll put that down. Again, this is going to be my front of my box. So at this time, I can go ahead and layer my designer paper onto the garden green cardstock. I'm doing everything that's just flat at the moment. So this paper does have orientation. So again, when I put this down and fold up the box, I do want to make sure that this is facing in the direction that I want. That's why I put the top of, or the front of the box on top. And we'll get some liquid glue. And put this down here. I'm not centering it because the lid's going to come on. So bring it down towards the bottom so that you get mostly the same border all the way around on the back side there. All right. Again, this is going to be my front. I'm going to put my side panels on. Get a little more, got that in the middle, but I need some on the outer edges. Also, while it's lying flat, it's easier for me to see how like the designer paper lines up. We don't need any designer paper here because we are going to be covering those up. At this time too, if you would want, you could put your ribbon on right now. I find that for this part, it's almost easier to do it afterwards so I can trim it up exactly to the box bottom on it. Okay, we are ready to assemble our box. Okay, so I'm going to flip it upside down. And what I like to do is hide the tabs so that you don't have anything on the inside that can possibly catch. So we're going to put the tab in between the 2 long panels. So I can go ahead and put my liquid glue here. I like using liquid glue for boxes. It's not only a strong adhesive, but it gives me a little wiggle room. And I'm going to, this is the front of the card. I'm going to put the adhesive all on the 2 side panels. Okay. So let's go ahead and put this up. So I'm going to put the back side on first. Whoops, I did that wrong. I'm gonna put I want to put my tab on the inside of the back of it and then bring this up like that. So again, the tab goes in the middle, and then with the liquid glue, you can, like I said, you can play around a little bit for it to line up. Okay, looks good. And I'm gonna get my bone folder in there and get good contact. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Put the back side of the tab in first. This is the one that has the non-glue, the tab so we can hide it, and then the front. Kind of get it lined up. Get some good contact and go from there. Then you can come back, and if you have any like loose ones like I've got here, I didn't get great contact on that, you know, you can just kind of come in with your liquid glue. Let's sneak a little bit in here. And you can do that on all of them. Because we're folding, sometimes we do get like a little bit of height here on it, like it doesn't line up exactly right. If you want to, you can take your snips and just kind of trim that off. If that bugs you. No one will probably even notice. But if you want to, you can come in and trim that down. Okay. All right, let's put our velvet ribbon on. This velveteen ribbon, fresh freesia that came in your kit, it's so pretty. It's so soft. It's like, you know, a nice plush toy or something. It's just so pretty. And it's also low profile. I will say that like you can go ahead and make bows with it. I just think because it's so 3D that you'd almost want to use hot glue if you're going to make a bow out of it. We're not doing any bows today in class. The height of this box is 5 inches. And so we want 2 strips of our velveteen ribbon. It's called faux velvet ribbon. I don't know why I'm calling it velveteen, but our ribbon, or felt ribbon. So if you want to with this, there's not any fraying with it. You can go ahead and cut 5 inches. I'm going to make 2 strips that are just slightly larger than 5. So there's my 5. That way, just give me a little bit of play at the top of the box. So do 5. So a little bit of 5 and change on our ribbon. Here's where, if you want to try to get as straight of an edge on one of them as possible. All right, so I have my silicone mat here. You don't have to have it. You can use parchment paper or something like that. A silicone mat is just great. It doesn't allow anything to stick. So I'm going to show you 2 methods of putting on this ribbon. This ribbon is 1/8 of an inch. And it needs a lot of support. So if you want to, you can use liquid glue, which I'm going to show you here. And I'm just going to put some of this on. And I have a sponge dauber that I dedicate just for glue. And I'm doing it in this method so I don't have a bunch of glue that, you know, might seep out over on the front of the box. So I'm just going to put down a little tackiness here. So this is one method that I like to use for this ribbon. So again, I'm just kind of painting some liquid glue on the back side of it. And do it with both of them. You might want to have some baby wipes handy for your fingers before you put this on your box. Get a little more just to make sure. All right. Okay, so now we have our 5-inch strips, and I'm going to put 2 of them on the left side. So you can, again, overhang it just a little bit. Make sure it's straight. Press it down a little bit. And we'll do the other one. So with your liquid glue, you can easily put these on. And you can adjust it just a little bit if you want. Okay. So you might want to let them dry just a heartbeat, but we're going to come in with our snips and trim off that top. Oops. Like I said, I didn't let this dry quite enough here. And we're going to press these down again. One more straightening out. Oops. I'm going to give this a good press and we'll be all set. Alrighty, let's go ahead and we'll put the lid together. I'll put the box off to the side for a second. Again, and just to go over this, this is 4 1/8 by 8, scored at 1 inch on each side. The reason why I added that 1/8 is that that's going to give the top of the box just a little bit of wiggle room to go over there so it's not so snug on it. So that's why it's not just 4 by 8, but it's 4 1/8 by 8. And let's go ahead and we'll cut our tabs. And this time, the end tabs here are going to be just that. So you can come up and angle cut. So these are the 4 corner tabs that are 1 by 1. Follow that score line. Okay. And just like before, I find it easier to put the paper on beforehand. That way it's a 3D box or lid, and it's just easier to put the paper on while it's flat versus trying to do it while it's on its side. All right, so the designer paper for the lid, the size of this is, so this is the back side of the paper here. And so this is this garden green on it. And this is going to be 1 7/8 by 5 3/4. Again, that's 1 7/8 by 5 3/4. Get that little wing out of here. And then for the sides, I have, and because I've made a couple of these, my paper is gone on this, but you can pick and choose other paper that you want. So I'm going to use this other garden green on it, but my sample uses all of the same. And this is 3/4 by 5 3/4. So 3/4 by 5 3/4, and we need 2 of those. And we'll get that. And these go on the long side. Put that right in there. So this is kind of good that I can show that you can mix and match. You don't have to go exactly with what my sample is if you want to choose something else out of that Lovely Garden pack of designer paper. And then the end tabs are going to be exposed as well. And these are 1 7/8 by 3/4. And we need 2 of those. Again, you can see by doing it or decorating it while it's flat, it's easier to line up those designer papers. Okay. All right, so to put this together, it's just simply putting the tabs on the inside. Okay, so on this, I'm going to turn it upside down. And we'll put liquid glue on all 4 tabs. Turn the tabs inward. Normally I don't quite rush this much with it. Make sure I have the glue, but I put that together and kind of make sure that it's squared up. And then do the other side. Once one side's down, you can put it on your surface. Okay. And then I'm just going to hold this here for just a moment, kind of come back here through the edges and press. Okay. For the tabs here, I forgot to mention, it's better if you really steeply angle cut those because there's not a whole lot of room, you know, there to hide the tabs. So again, if you want to, you can come in with your snips and kind of anything that's overhang, you can do. Okay, so that's our lid. And let's go ahead and we'll put this on. Wonderful. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll color and we'll stamp our focal image for our box. So all throughout class, you're going to be seeing the Thankful Garden suite of, or not suite, but bundle. The bundle comes with the photopolymer stamp set. It's got these 2 large images that we stamped earlier. You have the matching and coordinating dies. And then the bundle also includes the mask. All of these can be purchased individually, or you can save 10% by getting the bundle. For the mask, I'll just kind of show these. There's 5 of them. Okay, and they're numbered. So if you, to make sure that you have them in order, if you have this little knot or this notch out here in your upper right-hand side, that's the right side. And then, I don't know if you can see here, but that has number 1, number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's the order that you are to use your ink with on it. So number 1 has both of the large images. So it's going to work for both this flower here, as well as for our hydrangea. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll do this. This one I'm pulling out the colors from the designer paper that we chose to use for the box, which is Fresh Freesia and Garden Green. You'll also need some sort of removable, see, I got a glare here going on again. Need some sort of removable tape. I like this Post-it note cover-up tape. I use this all the time for my die cutting. You could also use washi tape. And as you can see, I've got some scrap paper behind it. So you just go ahead and move this around until your image is covered, and we're going to tape that down. So I'm using Fresh Freesia, and as you can see that, you know, the flower image only is exposed on here. So I'm gonna, if you use your blending brushes or whatever type of sponge type of thing that you use the outside edges of your ink pad. It's really juicy, and there's a lot of wasted ink that's over there because when we stamp in the middle. And you can come from the outside, and I press a little bit because there's ink that's up inside of your brushes, and I kind of go in a circle motion. So you can pick up more, kind of start off and swirl. This first layer doesn't need to be really dark because we're going to keep adding layers on top of it. Okay, so that's number 1. Pretty. And now I'm going to take number 2 and line it up. As you can see, this one, like I had to angle it a little bit. Each time that you do this, part of it will line up perfectly. You'll never see anything when you have it lined up outside of it, meaning that you know you're not going to have anything else. But like, so this little notch right there worked great. Okay, so I'm doing tone on tone. So every time we add a layer, it's going to darken up what's already exposed and give us our high-lows. Okay, so that's number 2. So you can already see the depth that it's starting to bring. Number 3, and you're like, my goodness, what does that one do? And again, I'm going to find where they all kind of line up onto the image. So this number 3, it kind of follows the inside of the flower and really gives that center then dark. Again, I'm going on the outer edges and swirl. On this one, because we want it so concentrated, we don't have to really worry about like coming in from the side. And that's our beautiful flower. All right, so 4 and 5 on the masking are for the leaves. So where the flower had 3 levels, the leaf only has 2 masks. So again, just line it up. The first one will always go on the outside of your outline. And get my removable tape. Using garden green throughout. Go to the edge, come in. If I just go directly, I might get a little blop of ink. So if you come in from the side, again, the bottom one doesn't need to be extremely dark. You just need to lay down that foundation color. Pretty, pretty, pretty. And now number 5. So you can see, like if I go like this, you might be able to see that like the mask is off. And so I know that's not lined up. So just kind of keep turning it until everything lines up as such. Okay, that looks good. When we die cut, it'll, you know, what do I want to say? Like anything on the outside is not going to be that big of a deal if you happen to do that. So this is going to get the inside veins. Okay, again, you don't need to keep going over and over and over unless, you know, you really want to, but the idea is just to get that first little sweep of color on it. Gorgeous. So pretty. And so then if you got, you know, the bundle with the matching dies, whoops, then we can go to our die cutting machine and die cut that out. So after I die cut it, I have this beautiful floral image. And if you want to, you can add a little Wink of Stella on it. This is optional. Just going to add a little sparkle to the flower. I'm just doing the petals. Not going to do the leaf. I just want to add a little sparkle to the flowers. Okay, let's bring the rest of it home here. Got my essential label, and this one is the second from the largest of that shape, and I'm going to use garden green ink and using Thankful for You Friend, and I want it to be on the left side, or I'm sorry, the right side of our label. Okay, close that up. And I want the floral image to be the only thing popped up. So I'm just going to glue down this. And to make it easy to know where to line this up, go halfway in between the, and just eyeball it, the side of this, and we're going to match it all the way up to the edge of our garden green layer, and approximately in the center. Okay, now let's get some dimensionals on the back of our floral. And we're going to really support this. Okay. Alrighty. You'll definitely want to have your lid on so that you know it's not going to catch. And just angle it in such a way so that, you know, it looks like that. So it stays within the frame of it, and that when the lid gets open and closed, it doesn't interfere with it. Also in your kit, if you got the class kit, it's the Starburst sequence. And so we'll be using so many of these on our projects. And I'm going to pull out the white and the fresh freesia color for this. And we'll just add a little bling to the front of it. And I'll do some like white on here. Just another something to catch the sparkle. It's as many as what you want. All right, so that's our first project. For it, we've got a box, and now we'll be ready to go when we get all of we have 6 cards, and you'll see how lovely we can get all 6 cards with envelopes in there. All right, this is project number 1. Our first card is very reflective of our box that we just made. Whenever I do a set of cards with a matching box, I always like at least one of the cards to pair back to the box front. And so this is a card version of our box front. So just like before, I'm going to first start by coloring our image, and I'm going to do the same thing as what we did on the box. And what we can do is, I don't need to wash these at all because I'm using the same color palette. I just want to go ahead and line these up again and make sure I'm doing the same number. So let's go ahead and we will color our floral image. Okay, I have my flower die cut, and let's go ahead and we'll get the card packet for this one. So in this one we have our fresh freesia. This is cut for our card base. This is 5.5 by 8.5. Got some layering pieces of garden green, 5 1/4 by 4, as well as a 5.5 by 4 for the inside. And then we've got our label from Nested Labels. Let's go ahead and we'll get some stamping done. So again, this is very repetitive as far as the image goes on purpose, so that we have one of the cards matches our card box. And just like before, we'll stamp it off to the right hand side. And we need one of our designer papers from the Lovely Garden, and this is 5 by 3 3/4. So we're going to do some layering. Whoops, don't want to do that one. So we'll layer our designer paper onto our matting garden green. And just like before, we want to go ahead and put our velvet ribbon down first. Another way that you can use the ribbon, and it's probably as far as adhesive, and I actually find that I like this a little better than the liquid glue. I wanted to show you the liquid glue first, as most of us would have that, I think. What I used here is I used tear and tape. So I put tear and tape down on, so I put 2 of these together because they're 1/8 of an inch, and I have a 1/4 of an inch, which is double the width of the ribbon. So I put 2 ribbon strips on here. So you can either use, and then I have a nice stiff backing for it. And then what I did too, if you want 2 strips of it with the tear and tape on the back side, you can just take your snips and cut down the seam in between the ribbons. So I'm going to go ahead and show this. And so here we can go ahead and pretty much, I'm going to go ahead and just trim this off like such, just to get it started. And then let's take my Take Your Pick tool, and we'll get that backing off. So now we have a nice adhesive back strip of that velvet ribbon. And we're going to put that down on the left hand side, going in just about 1 inch. And I found that the tear and tape keeps it straight for me as well. And so that looks pretty good. Turn it on the back side, and now I can trim up exactly to the edge of that. So if you want, you can use tear and tape for the back of these. All right, so now that I have that on, let's go ahead and do our card base. And we'll go ahead and, if it's a standard card base, I don't pre-score it for you. You can just fold it in half, or, you know, if you'd like to score and then fold, that's up to you. All right, so let's put this on. I think this is such a pretty card. All right, and let's get some dimensionals on the back of our project here. Oops, that's minis. Okay, so for the sentiment, what I want to do is I'm going to straddle this the velvet ribbon. So I don't want to have any dimensionals on top of the ribbon. So I'm going to put just one here, and then I'm going to kind of skip this area and put the other dimensionals as such. Okay, get those off. For this, it goes fairly coast to coast from edge to edge of our matting layer. So you can just kind of put that down towards the bottom on that. And let's get a little Winka Stella on here before we go. Each of the flowers will have a slightly unique color palette as far as how much ink that you used when you did your masking on that. All right, so let's go ahead and look at that. Because I'm going to layer this on top of this area right here, I don't want to have any dimensionals on this part of it. So I'm going to actually just put a little liquid glue on the bottom. Oops. And just like before, I want to try to keep an area here that does not have dimensionals on it so that I don't inadvertently go over the ribbon with another dimensional. If you do, that's no big deal. It's, you know, it just might add a little unevenness to your project, to your card front. Whoops. And get that off. Okay. So now just kind of position this so that you can see your sentiment. Too cute on that. All right, so before we add our gems, what I want to show you is what I've done on the inside of all of these cards. I carry over the image inside here, but I do not use the mask. I'm just going to use the remnants of the ink on my blending brushes to give that little blending color palette here. Okay, so here's this. Let's get some of my goodies out of the road. So for the inside, I'm going to go ahead and ink up my image, have some scrap paper underneath because we're going to stamp off on the corner here. And just kind of something like that. Wherever you put it will be just great. And I'm just going to have a little hint of this color. So I'm going to see what I have left on here. And I'm not going to try to be, what I want to say, super precise, because we're just giving that color blend. So look how pretty that is. So even if you wouldn't have the mask, this could be something, a technique that you could use and then just die cut out your image on it. But isn't that pretty? So we're going to put that little nod on the inside. Whoops, don't need to do it on the one that I don't need to put it on the inside of my sample, for goodness sakes. I had that glue a little too close to the edge there, and I glued my card base shut. All right, so we'll put that in here. And I'm going to do a little, you'll see me use some gems throughout this class on the inside too. I just think it makes it a cute little extra special. And I also, for me, what I found too is that, like, I always have 1 or 2 gems left over from a pack anyways. And so why not go ahead and use them and just make a super happy card? So when they open it up on the inside, there's just as pretty of a little surprise there as what there is on the outside. Okay, so we've got that. And let's put a little bit of bling on the outside. Get a little sparkle hit on the flowers. And then just like we did, you know, you can mix it up a little bit. Okay, so there's our first card, and let's go ahead and we can, what I like to do on these is you can go like this so that you have, whoops, I should say like this, so that here's, you've got your envelope, but they can see what the card is, or you can see what the card is. And we'll put our first card in our box. Okay, see you soon. Our next card is a Z-fold card. So let's get started making this card. We're pulling out the colors in the paper of Melon Mambo and Blueberry Bushel for this card. I'm going to start out with a card base that's 5.5 by 8.5. And ahead of time, for those of you that got the class, I've pre-scored it for you at 2 1/8 and 4 1/4. If you don't have to pre-score these necessarily, if you wanted to for this type of Z-fold, you can just fold it in half and then fold this back halfway again. For our designer paper, or for our layering pieces, let me pull this out. We've got some basic black layers here, and they are, for the inside, it's going to be 5 1/4 by 4. For the first panel on the card front, this is, I'm double checking here, 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. And then for our, I guess the main focal feature layering piece here, this is going to be 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. The designer paper, I wanted to show you that I'm using the front and back side. For the front panel, this is 1 5/8 by 5 and a 4 by 3. And I think I have this cut wrong. Yep, let me go and trim this really quickly. It should be 1 5/8. Alrighty, let's do some layering here. We're gonna take our designer paper, that'll be on the front panel. And we're going to layer this onto our basic black. So again, this is 1 5/8 by 5 layered on 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. That's such a fun color combination, I think. The black, white, and Melon Mambo. And that's gonna go on this first panel here of our Z-fold. Okay, and for our inside of our card, let's go ahead and do a little stamping. We are going to take our image that we've been using here, like the double flower, and we're going to take our Memento ink and stamp where the last card that we did, we stamped off to the, we used it on our right side. I'm going to stamp this one over here on our left. And for this one, we're not going to do any coloring. We're just going to kind of mirror the black and white theme here. So I'm not going to do any coloring on this one. So we have that. And we can take our inside layer now. This was a 5 by 3 3/4. Again, those of you that got the packet, you'll have your PDF that has all of those to refer back to. If you're watching the video, you can stop and start the video and jot down these measurements if need be. Okay, so we're going to put this on the inside. I really like the look of a double matte. Let's get a little glue. Okay, so there's that. And let's make our front of it. On this one, I'm going to put our ribbon, our velvet ribbon here. And I just kind of want to see what like you can position it wherever you want, and I think I still am going to use it just like on the sample down here towards the bottom third. So on this one here, I once again put the tear and tape on the back and I trimmed it in half. So again here, it looked like it was double on the 1/4 of an inch, and then I just took my snips and trimmed it so I had the backing on it. And I'll go ahead and, measure it. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it here at first. And if you make a nice long strip, you can use them, on several projects. All right, let's take the backing off. Get that. And we'll put it just about right here. And trim off the extra. Let's go ahead and we'll put this on. So adhere our designer paper, that's again 4x3, and layer it onto our basic black layer, that's 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. And now we can put this on our card front. So when this is closed, I want it to be centered on the card here. So we're just going to put adhesive on the left side only, the left back side, I should say. Okay, so we'll close that up and center it. Okay, we've got that. So cute. We're going to take that stamped image that we did of our flower and that we just had a little component on it. And we're going to go ahead and do our masking technique again, only this time I'm going to use our, we'll use Melon Mambo, and we aren't going to have any leaves. We're just going to focus on the flower by itself. I bought several sets of the blending brushes because I like to allocate like a color for each of my blending brushes. That way I don't have to clean them all the time. But if you have, if you're just starting out with your blending brushes and you have your set of 3 or 5, you just can go ahead and wash or just rub off the color in between. Okay, let's go ahead. I need some more tape here. Okay, I got my removable tape, and here's just this image here. Okay, so this is all that we're going to color, and it's okay if it goes outside the edge a little bit because it has its own dye. Okay, so I've got my Melon Mambo, and I'll go ahead and get a little bit of that on. It's nice when it's just doing the one, it goes super fast. So again, I'm getting the smaller one here. Picking up my ink from the side of my ink pad. And the last one. Again, you can use, if you don't have the, if you wanted to, you could just use your Stampin' Blends. See, there we go. Have to kind of keep turning it till I get her. There we go. And I don't know what I did with my tape, so I'm just gonna hold it down. All right, so pretty. So in our coordinating die set of the Thankful Garden dies, here's this, this image here, and that's going to die cut out the small flower by itself. Alrighty, I've got that die cut, and let's get out the sentiment from here. This die cut image is from Nested Essentials, or I'm sorry, this is from Stylish Shapes, excuse me. And we're going to use the sentiment from in Blueberry Bushel. And because the Thankful Garden, we're making several different cards, and I was just wanting to show how you can mix and match the different stamp sets and other sentiment stamp sets that you may have. So I did bring in Unbound Love, and I'm using the With Sympathy on here, just to kind of give whoever I gift this to a variety of cards that they could use. And on here, we can stamp it right in the middle. Again, with Blueberry Bliss. Or Blueberry Bushel. I keep calling it Blueberry Bliss for some reason. I think that was a previous color. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll get our dimensionals. And put this on, get 2 dimensionals on it. And I like to go ahead and close up the card front. And then, you know, if you want, you can have this kind of go off to the center a little bit and have it so it's almost at the edge here. Put that on. And whoops, what I should have done is straddle this again. Let me do this. I forgot about that. So what we can do is like kind of put it on the corners here. Could even use the mini dimensionals. That might be nice. Whoops, and I don't. Sometimes when I design the cards and it's been a moment, it's kind of, I have to remember how to do this. I don't want any adhesive here on the backside. Let me just take these off. That's one nice thing. If you just kind of peel these off slow, you can redo those. And let's go ahead, and if you have mini dimensionals, you can do that, but I'm actually going to just cut one of my regular size dimensionals in half, and let's put these down. Oops. Okay, so I want it here, and on my other little half, let's go down here. Okay, I think this is going to be much better. I want to keep that one side adhesive free because I am going to overhang it. I'm keeping this in the video just so that you can see how, you know, you can mix things up if you need to. Okay, and let's add that optional Wink of Stella on our flower that we created. And we'll put a dimensional on this as well. A couple of those. And wherever you feel like putting your flower, you can do that. And the last thing on this card is, again, we're going to add a little bit of our gems on here. Going to pick the fresh freesia and the white again. And let's just kind of put some around. I'm not going to put any on the label this time. You can if you'd like. I think that they really pop if you put it on the black. Okay, that's how that looks. And then again, let's go ahead and we'll bling up the inside. And I'm just keeping the inside again black and white to mirror that black and white paper that we had on the front. Okay, that one wanted to drop right there. All right, so this is our Z-Fold with Sympathy card. And let's go ahead and we'll get that one tucked in to our box. I'm just going to leave the lid off from now on until we get everything in there. Okay, card number 2, ready to go. For our You Make a Difference card, what we're going to do is we're going to stamp on our basic white layer, do our masking on the hydrangea, and then take that layer and run it through the die cutting emboss machine with an embossing folder, and I'm using the antique tiles or distressed tiles embossing folder. Okay, so for this card in your kit, start out with a piece of fresh freesia that's 5.5 by 8.5. For the inside, we've got a 5 1/4 by 4. Matting layers for this are slightly different in the fact that the matting layers are slightly smaller. The basic black is 5 by 3 3/4, and our basic white is 4 3/4 by 3.5. Alrighty, so we can start by, let's go ahead and just fold the card base in half. We can set that aside. And this time we're going to use the hydrangea stamp and Memento black ink. And I'm going to get out both of the pieces of basic white for the layers. While I have the stamp out, we'll do the inside and outside. So we'll ink up our hydrangea. There's not going to be any die cutting of the flower on this. I wanted to show you that you can still do the masking on a project without having to necessarily die cut it. So we'll just kind of get this. So both of these images do fit on the E block. Stampin' Up's acrylic blocks are lettered, and so the E block will work for this set. Each of their stamp sets on their website do show which size of blocks you'll need to work with it. Okay, so we'll do that on the inside as well. And then while I have the black out, our sentiment's going to be in black as well. This is from the nested dies again. And from our Thankful Garden stamp set, You Make a Difference. Okay, and that's going to go right in the middle. So let's go ahead and we will color using the hydrangea image from our mask. I've gone ahead and cleaned off the mask. I guess just not deep clean, but clean. I took a baby wipe and carefully wiped off the front of these so that we don't end up with a lot of inks on it. So I always like to get my my mask in the order that I need. And so there we go. All right, so let's go ahead and we will do the hydrangea this time. So I've got my number 1 mask, and just like before, you kind of keep turning it until like number 1 will line up with the outside of our project. And I'm using fresh freesia. And hit that outside. Didn't have hardly any ink on that one. So I will start to speed up the videos on the masking as we go on, because you'll get the idea of how to do it after we've done several. So after I have my front layering piece colored, and put it into an embossing folder and run that through your die cut machine, an emboss machine. So I've got that embossed, and now we have this beautiful layer here. And let's get in our components again of our card. So let's use some liquid glue again. This distress tiled, I believe, is on the last chance list. So that's where you can find that. So pretty. We're just gonna put that right on the card front. And here's, like I said before, like each one of them will take on a different look. It's the same color, it's just pressed a little differently on that. All right, and we're going to add our velvet ribbon. Again, this is one that I've got the tear and tape on the back. You're more than welcome. You don't have to do that. You can use liquid glue as what we did at first. And I want this to just be an underline under the "You Make a Difference." And where's my take your pick tool? Okay, let's get this off. Always tricky when you're doing it on camera. Here we go. And we'll put that underneath of it. And we'll get that popped up on our dimensions with our dimensionals. And this is just going right across the front. Get 3 of them on here. For the next card video, I'll have to get all of my dimensionals cleaned up. The tops of them, they're flying everywhere. And just wherever you want to put it, have a little bit of the leaf showing. And this one will go right on the inside of the white layer. And we'll get our gems. Every time I put a gem on, it might look a little different depending on what I'm feeling that time. So I don't always have to put them on in the exact same place. And like we've done in the past, we'll go ahead and just put, I'm going to use what I have here first on it. Looks like I need a little more on it. Might have to get out your reinkers after doing all of these. That's why, again, go on the outside of your ink pad. There we go. And see what I got left on my green. Plenty. I don't know why, I just love how that looks. It's so easy just to add that little bit of color for the inside. And we'll layer our inside on here. And add our gems to the inside. Let's get that one down a little bit. Okay, we have that one. Let's add this card to our box. So again, this card was just to show another way that you can use the stamp set without necessarily having to die cut the image. You can stamp and emboss it. Okay, there is our third card in our cute little box. Our next card is very similar to the one that we did here, only we're going to mix it up a little bit and make this one 3D, as well as pull out that blueberry bushel color that's in the designer paper. So what I did on this is, like, the designer paper does mirror both of these two colors with the hydrangea. So I wanted to give you two different looks that you could tie back to the designer paper if you wanted to do so. So for this coloring of the hydrangea, I'm going to bring in the blueberry bushel for our hydrangea. And while I'm coloring these two, or while I'm coloring and have the blueberry bushel out, if you wanted to save a little time on your designs, our treat box or gift box that we're going to do here towards the end, it's going to be the exact same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and do two of these at once while I'm doing it. We're just going to make the card, we'll finish this card by itself and this by itself, but while we're coloring, we can do them both at the same time. So by now you've watched me color using the mask a couple of different times. So I'm going to color these up and speed up the video. I will go die cut these out and we'll be ready to go. For our card, again, it's very reminiscent of the other one, but yet it's, I think, totally different. So what we're going to need on this one is we've got our card base, basic white, thick basic white, 5.5 by 8.5. Layering pieces of the blueberry bushel, 5 1/4 by 4. And then a piece of basic white, 5 by 3 3/4, and I've gone ahead and ran it through the embossing folder with the Distress Tiles embossing folder. So we can go ahead and get started. And here's the 2 die cuts that we did. We're only going to need 1. I'll put 1 off to the side. And we will go ahead and get these glued down together. Get our layers that are going the card front down. And oops, my liquid glue is heading off the table. And go ahead and fold, and we get our bone folder, get a crisp edge, and I can get that layered. Alrighty, and in your envelope you'll have this 1/2 inch by about 4 piece of basic white, and that's for stamping this nice thin sentiment here. So this time what we're going to use on the You Make a Difference is with our Melon Mambo. Mamba is a dance. Okay, and so what you can do here on this strip is we're just going to stamp it, and then we're going to trim it down. I wanted to give you plenty of room so that you didn't have to necessarily hit just that exact one or the size on it. So you can just take your snips, and we're just going to trim it down to, it's about the same on either side of the last of the letters. Okay. And let's go ahead and we'll get our hydrangea. Just like before, each one of them is going to be a little different. It's just going to depend on how much ink that you put on how dark it is. I'm going to get my Wink of Stella first. It's actually a little bit of a brush, like a liquid brush, so you can almost blend some of the colors in with your Wink of Stella. Okay, we got that. And let's go ahead and we'll use some dimensionals on the back of this. So it's a nice big floral image. Want to make sure that we've got plenty of foam dots on it to support it on the card. Okay, and we'll get those picked off. This stamp set, as well as Mixed Florals, have these nice huge floral images, and so many times we have some smaller delicate ones, and it's kind of nice to have these really large focal floral images. And you can put it however you want. If you want it, here I have it pretty straight on. Let's just kind of show it a little different if we put a little more of an angle on it. I'm having that centered right there on the card front, and a couple more dimensionals here. Probably do 3. Probably should have decided where I was going to place my sentiment here. Might not need some of them on the edge, but we'll go with it. And this, I'm going to put this kind of right in the center. Actually, a very cute and pretty yet quick card to put together. And we're going to come in and we're going to pop this a little bit with some of the Daffodil Delight. Let's get the right side. So adding that yellow just kind of complements and pops the other colors. At least I think so. And then for the inside, we're gonna do our trick and our technique of how we have been doing it. You'll have to let me know if you like how the inside looks. I think it really complements it. Right, so we'll get our tuxedo black and our hydrangea. And this time I'm going right here. I want just a little bit of the leaf to show, so I want to stamp high enough up on the inside for that to happen. And then just take what's left on my brush here on the blueberry bushel, and the same thing on the garden green. Put that here, and let's add a little bling to the inside as well. Again, that yellow just contrasts enough to really pop the other colors. Okay, so there's our fourth card. And if you wanted to, like, you could do the flower techniques on, like, do that, but on your envelope if you wanted to. That would be really cute. And we'll put that in here, and we'll grab our card box, and we'll add our fourth card to it. Our next card is a sweet little card. It reminds me of a shabby chic design. I just absolutely love it. So it embraces the yellow, the Daffodil Delight, the garden green, and the designer paper pack on it. And again, we have our main focal floral image on it. So in this card kit, what you'll have in your envelope is a label for the sentiment. I'm going to tuck that in there so I don't lose it. The card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. The basic white fun fold element, it's 3 by 11, and it's scored for you already at 3 inches and 7 inches. Also in your card packet is another garden green, and this is 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And then with your designer paper, you'll need to cut the background at 4 by 5 1/4, and for the front label, 3 by 4. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll put the card together, and then we'll do the coloring. Okay, so we can just go ahead and layer our designer paper down. So that's going to go right in the center of our card base. And what we want to do is we're going to fan fold this. And so here's this is the 3 inch, this is like a 3, and this is the first score line at 3. And then here's the one at 7. We want to take that 7 one and fold it away from us, and then fold it back so that we have what we have left is the 3 inch square here. This is done this way so that we can use our 8 1/2 by 11 sheets of paper. So that's why this one's a little bit of a short one, but you won't even notice it. Okay, let's go ahead and let's do a little stamping here first before we put it down. I always like to do my stamping. And this is one of the leaf images from the Thankful Garden stamp set. So that is where that came from. And I'm gonna put a little bit on the inside like we do. So I'm just gonna kind of make a little V with those two, something like that. And take my blending brush and we'll just kind of put a little green action under there. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to take this element here, this fan fold, making sure I have the 3x4 section, and that's why it's kind of nice to go ahead and stamp the inside first, because you know that that needs to go in the middle. So on the back side of that last panel, we're going to put liquid glue or whatever adhesive of choice that you like, all on the back side of it. And this is going to get centered onto our card base. Okay, so it looks like that one open. And now we can go ahead and glue these two together. So this is my 3x4 designer paper onto my 3 1/4 by 4 1/4 piece of garden green. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're going to place this so that it's over top of it, but we would have no idea of really knowing where to glue it on this. So what we want to do is we're going to add the adhesive to this 3x3 top panel. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that. So it's just going to be on the 3x3. And now when we put this down, we're going to go ahead and center it. So now when we open it up, it looks like that. And your back side of it will look as such. But that's the trick on this one, is to go ahead and put our white fan fold down first, glue just the 3-inch section, and then put the layering piece on top. All right, now we're going to kind of mix it up a little bit from our purple and blue tones, and we're gonna do one in yellow. So again, we'll do this, and I will speed up the video because I think by now we know how to color. Before we do any more coloring with our mask, I wanted to show how you go ahead and clean these. When you're all done, you'll take these to the sink and really clean them up with some like soapy water, and then, you know, pat them dry to air dry. But for now, I'm just taking a baby wipe, and you can put it over a paper towel. When you have these large openings like the leaves, you can pretty much just wipe around them. When you get into the delicate ones, the ones that have all of these intricate, please don't wipe, because you can actually catch it on some of these little ones and possibly ruin. So on these, you just kind of want to dab a little bit. I'm not saying you don't, you know, you can kind of swipe around, but don't be real rough with it, because again, you could catch some of those little delicate ones here. So just kind of pat it dry, or clean it. This one's a little more open, but it does have some little elements in it, so I'm just going to try to, you know, gently get it cleaned off. And because I'm doing yellow, I don't want to have any of maybe the little residual purple on it, so I'm kind of tapping that. And let's see, I know I've got one more here because we've got 5. Where's my 5th one? Here it is, just out of reach. And we'll get that cleaned up. Again, this one's wide open. You can be a little more non-careful, I guess. You still don't want to be too rough with it because like right in here, you've got a little piece of plastic. You don't want to go too much back and forth on it, but just enough to get it. And sometimes they even come through on the back side if you get underneath of it. So just be conscientious when you go to change colors on how to clean those. So I'm going to go back into the envelope and get our label. And with Garden Green, while that's still out, we're going to do With Love. And we're going to stamp it over to the right-hand side of the label. I like this With Love because you can have With Love, Happy Birthday, With Love, Take Care. That's why I've used it several times on this, just to make the class or your cards a little more all-purpose with it. All right, so we'll get some dimensionals. And we'll put those on our label back. And this is going to go pretty far over. So you can leave maybe just a little bit of designer paper peeking out there. And then again, like we've done in the past, we'll put plenty of dimensionals on here to support this nice big image. Don't put any here towards the end because as you see here, it trails off a little bit. So, you know, kind of stop putting your foam dots before you get too close to the edge. And we'll take some of those off. Okay. And I always like it where it kind of overlaps a little bit on the label. And we can put some of our optional Wink of Stella on our yellow. Oh shoot, I forgot to clean that off. Got a little bit of blue on there. That was a good, should have done that right away. So since it is a paintbrush, it will keep some of that last color. Well, that one's just going to be very unique. All right, and then all we have to do on this card is finish it off with our embellishments. So taking the Daffodil Delight and putting some of the white on here for some bling, just to kind of catch the light there, and a couple on the inside. Okay, you've seen how many of these that I've used for this sample here. Oh, I've got some on my fingers. Get off of there, picking some up. And, you know, so I'm using 6, 7 on a card, and and this is my second go around, and look how many I still have left. So, you know, just be generous with it when you do it. Love that card. All right, we've got one more card to do and a little box. Before we make our last card, I forgot to put our previous card into the box. This one doesn't really, the envelope doesn't really snuggle up close enough to it, so I'm just going to layer it like this. So this is card number 5 that we have in our box. All right, so our next card is With Love. And so it's really focusing and highlighting the beautiful designer paper on the front. And then we've got our image on the inside. And I just couldn't hardly cut this paper, or not cut it, but I couldn't hardly cover it up with a big image. I just thought this was bold and big and beautiful. So our last 2 projects are going to be using this pattern on our designer paper. So in our card kit, we have a label, a leaf image, and the base of our card is basic black, 5.5 by 8.5. And we'll go ahead and fold that in half and crease that edge. And now we have our Melon Mamba. This is cut at 5 1/4 by 4. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to put on our designer paper. So our designer paper is cut at, make sure I have this right. This is cut at 5 by 2.5. So 5 by 2.5. And then another piece is 5 by 1 1/4. And we're going to put these on so that they meet up side by side. So it doesn't matter which one that you start with. And you just want to mat one of the sides. And then I love having this black and white accent, just like the yellow embellishments did on that one card. The black and white paper really pops the pattern. And so if this overlaps a little bit, it's okay. Just kind of line it up. And now we're going to put some of our velvet ribbon on it. And I'm going to go back to the other method just so that of putting on the ribbon, just so that you can see both sides or both ways again. And I want to trim these down to 5 inches. So it might be easier to go ahead and use your ruler, grid paper, whatever that you want, and go ahead and measure 5 inches. So let's make 2 of them at 5. Every time I get just a little bit of glue on my nails. And then I'll just go ahead and use that one as my guide. They're a little long, but I'm going to trim those up. Okay, so that's approximately 5. And what I should have done is clean that off, but I won't. Just put it upside down. And let's put some liquid glue in the corner. There we go. That's the corner I used. Or if you want, let me just do this as well. We can, if you want to, you can either pounce that. I'll give you 3 ways. Or you can do a bead of liquid glue. It's just, as you can see, it just gets kind of sloppy. So for me anyways, it did. Maybe you've got a better touch on your liquid glue, but I'm going to go ahead and just do a little pouncing. Get a little more than what I did the last time. Okay, that looks good. We'll put that off to the side. Got a little glue on the front. That's why you'll want to clean your silicone mat in between times. Get the ends and a little bit in the middle. There we go. Okay. All right, I've got my card back here on my paper, and I'm going to put the ribbon so that it covers the seam. And I'm going to leave that a little bit, what do I say, not put down, not really press down, because I'll come in and I'll trim it where it matches it up. So do the other strip, get it really close. Okay, oops. Kind of play with it a little bit. Might need to clean your hands. Okay, now I'm going to get my snips. I'm going to grab a baby wipe real quick. Got glue on the tippy tips of my fingers. Now we can come in here and kind of lift this up and trim it next to the designer paper. Get the little fuzzies off and do the same thing on this side. If you wanted to make it easy, you could go all the way up to the edge. too. There we go. So there's our ribbon on. Now we're ready to put that onto our card front. When I squeeze my liquid glue, it's a fairly new bottle. I just do a light pressure just so that a little bit comes out so it doesn't gush on me. And look at that, straightened up. So pretty. And with our label this time, I'm still using the With Love, but I'm changing out the ink color to Melon Mambo. And this time I can stamp in the center. With love. And this is one of the 2 leaf images that come in the set. There's other leaf images that you can use to die cut out with the stamps, like we did with the smaller flower on there, but these 2 are standalone leaf images, so I wanted to give you one of those to see what that looks like. And for this one, I'm going to go ahead and put some dimensionals on the back of the leaves. Not going to do anything with the stem. I'm going to not have any adhesive on that. That's just going to be, I guess, loose, so to speak. So we'll just put dimensionals on all 3 of the leaves. And you can decide on where you would like to place your leaf. What I kind of did first is like, what don't you want to be covered up? You know, so I want this big blue hydrangea to show. So I'm going to put the leaf here and then put some more dimensionals on the back of our sentiment. I think that looks good there. All right, let's go ahead and we'll do our stamping for the inside. I'm going to focus on the hydrangea and get my Tuxedo Black ink. And I'm going to stamp that image. You know, you can do it however you want. I'm going to do it right down here at the bottom. You could angle it if you want, whatever you'd like to do. And because on this paper here, the blueberry bushel is featured, where on this one, you see the Fresh Freesia one. That's why I did that color. So whichever one that you want to focus or that's on your paper strip is what you can use. So I'm going to go ahead on this one and put my blue down with my blending brush, whatever ink is left over there. And then the same thing with the garden green. And now we can put that one down. And that goes on the inside again, and we can put our gems next again. I'm gonna go ahead and keep going back to the yellow, the Daffodil Delight one. Again, it really pops out the other colors. I think so. And then do a little bit of the little ones here and maybe a Fresh Freesia on the leaf. And there's our last card that we're going to do. We've got one more project, but let's go ahead and put our card in here. So put it in with the envelope. This is card number 6. And as you can see, I could probably put another good 2 cards in there if I wanted to. And we'll put our lid on that we made. And we have this beautiful gift box or just card storage box that we can sit out and enjoy. All right, we have one more project to go and we'll be wrapping up our mega class. This half of an acetate box is so cute and perfect for just small little gift giving so that you can see exactly how much it holds. I went ahead and put 4 tea bags in there. You can also use the Ghirardelli chocolates, fit great in there too. You could put some jewelry, you know, if you're all about, like I am, these stackable stretchies, you know, you could do something like that too. A thin cookie, on and on and on. And so this is our last project. So in the sack that had, that was for the card box, also in that same sack, you had the half a sheet of acetate box and this strip of basic white. What we're going to need for the lid is a piece of 3 3/4 by 6 designer paper. And you can use any of the designer paper that you want. I just enjoyed this pattern so much and we hadn't used it yet. And I was trying to use all of the patterns in class so that we can kind of play around and see a little bit of them. So this is the pattern that I chose for the lid. These acetate boxes you can find online. You just can put like clear boxes for an A2 card. The ones that I have are a 1/2 inch. Some of them that you can find are 1 inch, but this one's actually at 1/2 inch. And you can get, I think, 20 or 50 packs or, you know, packages of 20 or 50 in those. I went ahead and cut those in half, and these go together super easy. You just fold them, and then the tabs come in. So there's no glue that's needed on these boxes. And you're just going to fold that tab in too and tuck it in. You keep going off camera, sorry. And you just kind of tuck it in. Then if you want to, you can get your bone folder in there and kind of straighten those out just a little bit. But that's all there is to putting the box together. We're going to do some scoring for the lid. So along the 3 1/4 inch side, we are going to score it at 1 1/2. Make sure I've got my scoring blade on here. 1 1/2, and at 2 1/4. For designer paper, sometimes you don't want to press too hard. You'll get to know your trimmer. You just want to make sure that you don't, you know, score so hard that you start to rip the paper. And then along the long side, we're going to score at 3/4. So I'm going to use the 3/4 over here. 1, 2, 3 lines. And then at 5 1/4. Which would actually be, you know, 1/4 or 3/4 from either end. So now it's time to make some tabs, and we want to go ahead and let me just kind of fold these, fold along our score lines so that we can see where we're at. So as you can see, that's a really narrow top that we have here. And let me bring in the sample here. We're going to fold the long side, you know, back on itself so that we have the long side. And so that means that we need to cut the center here for our tabs. So we'll go ahead and trim up to the score line. And go ahead and make our little V cutout on that. And the same thing on the other side. Follow the score lines up. Take away some of that bulk on the tab. And then you can kind of you can decide on, like, if there's one side that you like to be the front more than the other. Just kind of keep in mind that we're going to have this big hydrangea on the front of it. So the way this one worked out, I think I'll use this as my front so that there's a little bit of the blue peeking out. Okay, so this is gonna be my front. So I'm gonna put adhesive on the inside of that and the inside of that. So there's my score line. Kind of go on the corners a little bit. This is gonna go on the inside. Okay, so this is going to be the back side I'm going to put up front or first, and then this is going to wrap around. Kind of give it a finger press. This is my back side. It goes in between. So back side, little tab, front wraparound side. Give it a finger press. And that's all there is to the lid. So then we can just kind of put that right down on top of it. Cute. And remember, we did our 2 hydrangeas at the same time, so we already have this one ready to go. Let's put a little Winka Stella on it. I think this need to feed my glitter a little bit. There we go. Get some extra sparkle. And then also there's this little tab here. Again, it's 1/2 inch. And we are going to take our, let's see, what are we going to take? Okay, from our stamp set, there's a little stamp that says, "And thanks." And we're going to use our Melon Mambo. And we're just going to find some scrap white and stamp. And then I just want the thanks on it. So I'm going to take my snips and we're just going to trim off everything but the thanks. So we're just going to paper snip right around that. And before I lose it, I'm going to put a dimensional on the back. And this is going to go right on the base of our flower, where the flower and the stem kind of meets. And now when we go to put this on our treat box, again, I want to raise it up a little bit, but I want to make sure not to overhang either side. I don't want the dimensionals on here because I don't want them to go beyond the box itself, the lid. So I'm actually going to put the dimensionals right on the lid. 3 of them. I should have put that second one a little closer. And we'll just take those off. If you want to, you can take that off right now. I'm going to take it off just so that I can peel these off a little faster. If you want to, fill it up with anything. So again, here's some tea. Put about 4 tea bags in there. You'd do a tea bag and a chocolate. We'll cover that up. Oops, my box bottom came loose a little bit. Get that fixed in just a little bit. And then now we can position our flower on it. And you do want to make sure that if it stands up, if you're gifting it, that your stem doesn't go beyond the bottom of the box. And let's add a few more bling to it. That bottom's releasing on me. And the yellow can really pull out the little yellow flowers on this. We can even put some of our bling on the paper itself. I'm going to do my other one since the bottom's not, well, you just keep kind of playing with it. There we go. Okay, so now we have this cute little gift. I'm going to grab my other one here because I don't want to take the time to redo the bottom real quick. Okay, so this was my idea with these two cards, or these two projects. So whether you had like with love, and then you have like, so maybe somebody did something nice and you wanted to give them a little treat bag. Now you've got this coordinating card and little treat. That's why I chose those two colors to go together on it. Okay, that is our last project. I'll be back on a video to say goodbye.